Hi, and welcome to Hot Job Summer 2, Ready Set Exec's annual summer event to support our network of executive job seekers. So today our panel includes some talented guest speakers who want to help you secure a job this summer. Starting first with Emily Golden, a master certified coach and seasoned talent strategist with over 20 years of experience supporting C-suite leaders and organizations to unlock the full potential of their teams. As founder of Golden Resources, she's delivered over 5,000 hours of transformational coaching, helping clients from Fortune 500 companies to nonprofits drive extraordinary cultures and outcomes. Known for her strategic insight, leadership development expertise, and impactful facilitation, Emily is also the author of The New Golden Rule and a sought after speaker praised for her inspiring, thought provoking presentations. Thank you, Emily, for participating today. Also, our second speaker, Lissa Appiah, certified career strategist, organizational coach, and founder of We Apply, with over 10 years of experience in public policy, HR, and leadership development. She helps quiet leaders and teams discover their strengths and strive at work with authenticity. Recognized as a LinkedIn top voice and one of Canada's top 100 Black women to watch, Lissa has supported thousands in securing roles across Fortune 500 companies and government. Her insights have been featured in Fortune, CTV News, and the Globe and Mail. And finally, Keri-Lynne, founder of the Salary Bump, empowering professionals to own their worth, navigate career transitions, and secure the pay they deserve. As a former chief people officer with extensive HR experience, Keri-Lynne has helped countless individuals articulate their value, negotiate effectively, and achieve transformative career growth. Her approach blends strategy, authenticity, and actionable tools that create win-win outcomes in both salary negotiations and career advancement. Through her programs, Keri-Lynne inspires professionals to take the driver's seat in their careers, design paths they love, and unlock their full potential. So thanks everyone for coming today to hear our speakers, and we really hope we can give you some actionable tips and tricks to help you with your job search, because I know that many of you have been out of work since January, and it is dragging on. And so with Hot Job Summer, we're going to give you some good tips and advice, but also try to get you pumped up for Q4, which is a major hiring spree that's going to be happening. So to begin with our speech, we'll have Emily Golden talking about the new Golden Rule.
Is joining us. So if you are here, my guess is that you're in a season of transition. Maybe you're exploring what's next for you, or maybe you're simply stepping away from what no longer fits. And perhaps you might be sitting in the discomfort of uncertainty. I have been there. I have walked beside countless leaders who have as well. And one of them is someone I will call Alex. And I want to introduce you to Alex just the way John introduced you to me. So, Alex had a long and successful career. He was a C suite executive with a fast growing company. And then unexpectedly, Alex was out. A reorg, a new CEO, a shift in direction, right? You know this drill. He went from in demand to in transition, and it happened almost overnight. And Alex, like so many of us, defaulted to his inner critic. He micromanaged his resume. He overanalyzed every conversation. And he began to believe that maybe his best work was behind him. That's why I want to share a powerful reframe, something that changed everything for Alex and that might just change the game for you today. And I call it the new golden rule. I got lucky. My last name, I had to play on it. The new golden rule is to treat yourself the way you want others to treat you. Treat yourself the way you want to be treated. Now, we all know the old golden rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated. It is a beautiful principle and it matters. But for high achieving professionals, like those of you here with us today, my humble offer is that it is incomplete. Because over and over and over, I see leaders who are kind, generous, and thoughtful with everyone except for with themselves. And when we're in the middle of job search mode, that harshness looks like, I should have had a better answer for that question. Why haven't I landed something yet? What the heck is wrong with me? Right? Alex's inner monologue was all of the above. And there was also more. He thought that if he just pushed harder, got tougher, eliminated every flaw, he'd win in his career. But instead, he started to lose touch with himself, his confidence, his clarity, even his joy. Any of this perhaps sounding familiar? Because, you see, that's the problem with pressure and unreasonable expectations. They create constriction. They also shut down creativity. They mask our brilliance, and they make us forget who we are at our core. If we're not careful, that critical voice becomes the one that we start to believe, the one that we start to lead from. And that's just dangerous. Because, and this is the truth, the energy you bring to a job search is often more impactful than the credentials on your LinkedIn profile. So, what did we do with Alex in our coaching? We flipped the script. See, the new golden rule isn't just a mindset shift, it's actually a leadership strategy. For Alex, it meant speaking to himself the way he would a trusted colleague. It meant allowing himself to be human, to not have every answer, to not land every opportunity. It had Alex remembering his worth is constant, even when his title is not. And lastly, knowing his core values and aligning his search with them became possible when he applied the new golden rule. I know this might seem like feel-good fluff, but it's a real driver of leadership effectiveness that translates during executive job search. There was a 2023 study of working professionals by the NIH that found self-compassion was significantly and directly associated with higher job performance. It also indirectly boosted performance through improved mental health. Makes perfect sense, right? Self-compassion is correlated with sustained momentum in career transitions. And this creates emotional clarity and resilience, which are a very good look during your job search. These qualities show up on interviews, and they make networking more effective, but also quite fun, actually. And research by Catalyst indicates that organizations led by self-compassion have 76% higher employee engagement. Now, that's in organizations. Even while you're not yet hired, though, executive level job seekers can model these qualities: confidence, composure, emotional intelligence, which translates into perceived leadership presence and long-term impact. When you treat yourself with belief and clarity and trust, you radiate those qualities. You show up differently. Alex reported feeling more grounded. He listened more in networking, and he pitched himself less. It was actually easier. He stopped trying to fit into roles that weren't aligned, and he started choosing from a place of wholeheartedness. This wasn't just about Alex being nice to himself. It was about reconnecting with his center, his core, his essence, the clarity, the presence, the leadership that had always been there, but it had gotten buried underneath stress and self-doubt. So, what does this look like for you? Here are a few actionable steps that can bring the new golden rule into your job search. Simply start with intention every day. Ask yourself, How can I bring my essence, the highest and best of me, to this search today? Choose what energy do I want to bring to my conversations. Create a win journal or a yay me file, as one of my clients calls it. Jot down 3 ways that you showed up as a leader every day, even when you're not leading a team. Practice emotional check ins. So ask yourself throughout the day, what am I feeling? What do I need? And what would self kindness look like right now? Limit, yes, limit your job search window. Give yourself a hard stop because all day searching actually leads to burnout, not breakthroughs. I've seen it so many times. Know your values and speak them out loud. Before a big meeting, an interview, say out loud, I lead with integrity. I bring clarity. I create calm. And when it gets hard, because let's face it, in a job search, it will. Remember, how you treat yourself in this process is how you're going to lead others once you're back in the chair. One of the most powerful reminders I share with my clients is this. Your next opportunity isn't just about what you can do. It's about who you are being. And who you're being is shaped by how you treat yourself. I know I sound like a broken record. So here are 3 questions that I would invite you to ask yourself and carry with you every day. Ask yourself, how can I show up with the energy I want my next CEO, my next board, or my next team to feel? How am I modeling the kind of leadership that I want to step into? And where am I making space? Space, yes, high achievers, I know this is hard. Space to rest, to reflect, and to reconnect with what truly matters. Because the truth is, many people try to pivot or re-enter the workforce by adding skills, credentials, frameworks. And while those things matter, it's presence. It's presence that makes people lean in. That's what inspires trust. And that's what says, I am ready to lead again. That's what tells the people you're interviewing with it's time. So if we go back to Alex, he began to embody these different prompts. He stopped trying to prove himself and he started trusting himself. He started checking in, not just with his head and his hustle, but with his heart and his truth, his gut. His interview shifted, his posture shifted, his questions changed. He stopped trying to answer and he started to be the one who asks the powerful questions. He stopped trying to be interesting and started to be interested. Executives aren't hired solely for their achievements. They're hired because of how they make people feel. And that's presence. It starts from the inside. Alex eventually landed his new role. It was more aligned with his values and his strengths. All of that is great, but the truth is, he'll tell you, the real win wasn't the job. It was Alex felt empowered when he walked into the interview. He felt rooted, whole, and ready. And these are skills that he is bringing with him in his new role. So as you continue this journey, I know it can be challenging, but remember this. Treat yourself the way you want others to treat you. With respect, with belief, patience, kindness. Because your leadership isn't waiting on your next title. It is already here. It's already started. And one more thing, don't go it alone. Community matters. Share your story with others. Let others remind you of who you are when you forget. We can all use it. The new golden rule isn't just a nice idea, it's a methodology. It's backed by social science, relevant to leadership, and it is very practical when navigating the job search. It perhaps could be a key that's truly meant for you today. So I always love to just give away something. If you want, you can scan this QR code and grab a free copy of this Executive search guide. It's a one pager. It just gives you some of the information that I shared with you today. And that's it.
Thanks, Emily. That's great. And as someone that's gone through 4 layoffs myself, I can tell you that the self-doubt, the stress really builds up over time. And I think now, considering that job search can take 6 to 9 months, even a year for some people, it's really hard to maintain that like enthusiasm in your step after month 6. The first 3 months you're like, okay, I'll bounce back quick, and then after 6 months you're like, oh, I've already had a few interviews, I haven't got a job yet. Now we're in August, right? And it's been 8 months since my January layoff. And how do I maintain that mental health aspect of the job search, which is probably the biggest and hardest piece of it, right? So
Bingo.
good.
Bingo. And you're not alone. This
Yeah,
is, yeah, I think that's a key message. It's really why leaning into community and support is so critical.
sounds good. And so, as part of the job search, leading with intent is, I think, for many people is using social networking to grow their network and continue to find people to reach out to and create conversations. Lissa, do you want to maybe talk about how you can do that as an introvert? How are you going to network when you're not used to doing it? I know a lot of executives that they've had a job for 10 years, they lost it now in January. A lot of people in manufacturing lost their job in supply chain because of tariffs and so on, and now they're like, oh no, I don't know what to do. How do I use LinkedIn? How do I network? And it's not my natural. Some people are just not naturally outgoing to do that, right?
Thanks, John. You said that perfectly, and that's really the people that I work with. I work with a lot of executives who are very well accomplished. They have great credentials, but they found themselves in a space where they've never had to actually put themselves out there. They've never actually had to present. Some of them are telling me they don't even have a resume. Like they just would get a job by talking to this person, talk to that person, and they would get a job. So they're starting from scratch essentially because they haven't built a reputation, they haven't built a brand, and now they're in situations where they're laid off or they're looking for a job for the very first time, and they're wondering, okay, what is LinkedIn? How do I show up? How can I do so confidently, especially as an introvert who tends to be someone who doesn't always want to be in the spotlight. So let me start off by talking about why building a personal brand is important. Firstly, it makes you memorable. Ultimately, what you're trying to do with building a personal brand is you're creating top of mind awareness. Your personal brand is essentially how people perceive you. It's the perception that people have of you and how they see you and the knowledge that you have, how you work and what you do. So it's not just the what in terms of your credentials, but it's also the how, which is really important, especially as a leader, to be able to demonstrate what are your leadership skills and what do you bring to the table that is different from what every other executive with a very similar background and resume that you have, to be able to differentiate yourself in this process. So top of mind awareness, that's essentially, it's a marketing term that, for example, you go to the store, there are two products that are essentially pretty much the same product. But for one product, you've seen ads about it. You heard that your friend talked about it and said, oh, this one works way better than the other one. And so there's already this top of mind awareness that's been built about that product versus the other one. So even if that one is a little bit more expensive, even if that one has a little bit more to it, you may decide to lean towards that one because of the top of mind awareness that is around that product. So that's the exact same thing that you're trying to do by building your personal brand. And a lot of what personal branding is comes from the marketing world, the business world, about branding generally. But now you're doing it for yourself as an individual instead of branding your company, which as an executive, you've probably done for many, many years. So now the focus should be on you and branding what you have to offer and who you are. So by putting your messaging out there, by sharing your story, sharing your accomplishments, you are able to create that top of mind awareness so that in the sea of other executives who may have been laid off as well, people will gravitate towards you because of that differentiating factor that you bring to the table. The other reason why building a personal brand is important is that it helps you attract the right opportunities. As introverts, our tendency is that we are, for example, I just went to a networking event yesterday. I am really great at being able to sustain a conversation. If we're talking, yeah, that's wonderful. I can sustain a conversation. But to start a conversation, that's not my strong point. And as introverts, typically when I'm talking to my clients, that's how they feel as well. So to take that and to bring it to your job search, sometimes it can be very difficult to be the one to put yourself out there to apply for that job or to talk to that person or to reach out to that contact. But how about if you could attract the opportunities instead of chasing them? And that's ultimately what your personal brand does for you, because by sharing what you have to offer, by sharing your knowledge, by sharing your thought leadership, ultimately what happens is that you start attracting opportunities. You've been talking about the fact that you have this expertise, or you've optimized your LinkedIn profile to have keywords about what you do in your industry, which allows people who are looking for that skill set, hiring managers, recruiters who are on LinkedIn, to be able to gravitate towards you instead of you always being in this place where you're chasing. The other reason why building a personal brand is important is trust and credibility. I remember working with this executive a few months ago, and she had an amazing background. She was an executive director at a nonprofit organization, and she ran the organization for many, many years. She was applying for an international speaking engagement at a conference, and based on her background, she should have been the one selected. But one of the questions on the form, they were asking about how many followers do you have, add the link to your LinkedIn profile, and she had none of that. She didn't have any of that, and she didn't get selected for the opportunity. And they explained to her that one of the criteria that was really important for them is that they wanted leaders that already had visibility online. So that already tells you that you can miss out on opportunities because you don't have a personal brand. As much as your resume may be excellent and you have all the credentials, without a personal brand, and how the job market has shifted and how our society has shifted generally to move things online, if you haven't established that trust and credibility through your personal brand, you are going to miss out on opportunities. And then why is it also important to build a personal brand is that you're future-proofing your career. It's not just about your job search now. A personal brand allows you to continue to attract opportunities continuously. So this same client that I was telling you about, the speaking engagement, she was able to land another speaking engagement after we worked on her LinkedIn profile and we built her brand, her messaging, and her story. And since then, she has been featured in the news. She's landed other speaking engagements. So that effort that she did once has multiplied into many other opportunities coming her way. And so, a lot of people will tell me it takes a lot of time to build a personal brand. I don't want to spend my day on LinkedIn. So it doesn't mean that you need to spend your day on LinkedIn. The first place you want to start is many people created a LinkedIn profile when LinkedIn came out many, many years ago, and then you never looked at it ever again. The first thing is to optimize your LinkedIn profile. So make sure that it's up to date, that it really showcases your background, your experience, that the keywords that you want to be found for are in your profile. What that means is that if someone was looking for you specifically, what word would they type in the search? That word, you want to make sure that that wording is across your profile and it allows you to be found. The next thing is make the right connections. Make sure that you are connected to people who are in your field, in your industry, and start conversations. Not everyone needs to be a content creator. That's not what LinkedIn is about. So I have clients who are executives. They don't post any content. They don't like anything, but they get opportunities from LinkedIn because they're having conversations. And then always remember that people hire people. So you definitely want to make sure that you are in a space where you're allowing yourself to be seen by people so you attract the opportunities that you want. Emily was just saying that, you know, people tend to focus on credibility when they're looking for a new opportunity or they want to make a career change. Credentials at the end of the day are the bare minimum. Your personal brand is really what's going to help you differentiate yourself. So yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, we had some questions from the audience about that. So one question was, you know, LinkedIn Premium, like, do you recommend it for job seekers? Do you think it's worthwhile? If you're trying to build your, let's say you're starting from scratch and you're trying to build your personal brand, like, do you need to have premium?
It's a good question. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you want to know who's viewed your profile, if you're going to use LinkedIn Learning, then yes, I would say it's worth the investment. If you're really just trying to connect with people and job search, typically no, it's not necessary. So you do get the 30, like if you've never had it, you can do the 30-day free for LinkedIn Premium. A lot of my clients will do that, get the most out of it in the 30 days, get all the names that they want to get, and then they cancel it after that. So it just depends on how much you're going to be using it. If you will leverage every part of it, then yes, it's worth the investment.
And when you're thinking about just like daily activity, what would you say for someone that's not too tech savvy, not too, they don't want to be an influencer, let's say, what would be an amount of activity you'd recommend for the average job seeker, like daily or weekly? What kind of activity would you say they should?
Yeah, I would say focus on firstly optimizing your profile and then making connections. So you know, especially as an executive, you've built a career over many, many years. So you're already well established, well connected. So making sure that you're connected to those people on LinkedIn. You may have noticed on LinkedIn, there's the different degrees that you're connected to people. So when you're connected to someone at a first degree, anytime you interact with them, it's almost like you're also interacting with their network. So one person's network can open you up to a wider and broader network as well. So it is important who you're actually connected with on the platform because that does help make a difference in terms of the visibility and the reach that you're going to be able to get. If you're someone who doesn't want to post any content at all, as I was saying, just starting conversations, actually talking to people through direct messaging is a great strategy as well. If you're somewhere in between where you're like, okay, I don't want to create content, another approach is commenting. Comments do very well on LinkedIn in terms of being able to gain visibility. So commenting on other people's posts that are in your industry that help you get eyes, you get seen by people in your industry. So by commenting, I'm not saying like to say congratulations or well done in the comments, but actually share your insights, share your knowledge, valuable comments that people can learn from. And then also there's the other aspect if somebody actually wants to create content. Consistency is more important than frequency. So a lot of times people get excited and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to show up on LinkedIn, and then they're posting every single day multiple times, and then they exhaust themselves and then they stop. And that is lost traction. It would have been better for you to say, I'm just going to post once a week and I'm going to be consistent with my once a week instead of exhausting yourself in 1 week and then after trying to catch up later on. So just pacing yourself also and setting something that's realistic, just like Emily was saying, so you're not spending your days job searching, that you're actually pacing yourself in the process.
And what would you say about sort of the algorithm with LinkedIn? Because it seems like, and this is just my personal take on it, it seems like lately, like the posts that get the most traction are like Facebook type posts, outrage posts, you know, outrage farming, you know, just trying to post something to get people angry. Rather than content and the old thought leadership stuff that we used to see, I think
Mhm.
before January, is kind of lost now. I don't know. I don't see it as much where people are posting, here's like tips or here's an interesting article or whatnot. So how do you adapt to this you know, Facebook, LinkedIn version that we have now? You know?
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of people are talking about the algorithm and reach has gone down and different things like that. I've been posting on LinkedIn for the last 4 years, and I will say this is something that happens every couple of months, that LinkedIn has a new idea of how they're going to set the algorithm and then it changes. Right now, it seems like what's happening, there was an article in Business Insider that was talking about it, is that people are seeing older posts essentially. And I'm sure if you're on LinkedIn, that's what you're seeing. You're seeing on your feed posts from 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So essentially what I would say is that what you want to focus on is what will drive you results, because at the end of the day, if you're talking to your right person, they will find you. So if you are just chasing the algorithm, then you'll follow the trends and start doing, memes and whatever. But is that going to lead to the result that you actually want? It is not, right? So focus on delivering the value. I've seen people who get 2 or 3 likes on their posts and still get opportunities from the 2 or 3 likes. My reach has decreased significantly, and you can say, okay, you have a really big following, but still, I am still able to get clients, and things are still moving forward and even greater than they were when I was going viral. So just focus on talking to the person that you are seeking to speak to. Focus on the result that you're trying to achieve, and you will get it. You just need to be consistent.
It's good advice. Sometimes, the number of likes doesn't translate to anything for you. It's just your popularity contest, right? So makes sense. Sorry, another question here from the audience. And maybe we can open this one to the panel, because this is a sort of an open question. What advice do you have to, if you accept an offer that was great, but a better offer comes weeks later for a job that is superior to the one you accepted? And we've had some people in the audience chime in saying, well, if it's an at-will state or employed at will, you can just leave whenever you want. But how do you navigate that? Maybe you can hear from everybody in the panel on this one.
That might be relevant to actually answer that one. And actually, I think it actually comes back to Emily and what Emily was talking about, because when you are evaluating your worth and you are evaluating your values, what's really important to you, you're not just accepting a job for the money. You're accepting the job because it's aligned with who you are, because you've done that work. So for $10,000 more, if that's the opportunity you want to accept because of the money, or is it because it's better aligned to who you are? I think you are the only person that can evaluate if that's the right decision or not. Karma, burning bridges, did you already start? Like, there's a million things to answer around that question. And I think it's more important for you to look in the mirror and figure out if that makes sense for you. I've seen it, and it's perfectly okay. It just depends. So I don't know if I segue, John, into a little bit about what I do, but actually it's funny how you set this up, because Emily and Lissa perfectly flow into what I do. And as a former CHRO, I watched people struggle in 3 areas. So over the decade that I worked in HR, and the first area was networking. Most people did not realize the importance of a network. They didn't know how to network. They were embarrassed or felt awkward about networking, or they felt like networking was a take versus networking actually being fun. As Emily was describing, 80% of jobs are found via your network. So when Emily talked about burnout and you looking on LinkedIn for jobs and Indeed and all these different places, that is not where your energy should be spent. Your energy should be spent on, after you've done the inner work, you've built your personal brand, you're active on LinkedIn, you're active where you want to be, that you are finding your people, whether it be dusting off your old Rolodex or finding new, or both, through LinkedIn, through your channels, through the industries that you want to be part of, through networking events, through industry events, through DMs, and finding these people and actually engaging with them and trying to lead them to a conversation is where the bulk of your time should be spent. So that was number one. The second thing that people struggled with was storytelling and knowing how to articulate who they are and their impact. So Emily talked about this as well. I'm trying to relate exactly what you said, Emily, but unless you know who you are, unless you know your superpowers, your gifts, and find a way to tell them in a way that is compelling for the person on the other side, you won't pass go. Most of the interviews, I interviewed thousands of people over my career, and Most of them are forgettable. And we won't, like, we're talking negotiation is the third thing. You are not even going to get past go. You won't get to the negotiation, the job offer, unless you find a way to tell your story that's really compelling. So find that red thread. I ask my clients 3 questions for you to be able to figure out how to answer the question. Tell me about yourself. These are the 3 questions I would recommend you answer. First one is, what do you love? And I mean love, light your fire. What do you love? It doesn't have to be even work related. It could be I love people. It could be I love fashion. It could be I love art. Doesn't matter. What do you love? And if you could spend 90% of your time doing what you love, that there's something there. The second thing is, what are you really good at? And I mean eyes closed, hands tied behind your back. What are you really innately good at? And the third thing is, how do you or want to bring value to the world? And that sort of aligns a little bit more to your purpose and your mission, if you will. So if you can put those 3 things together and tell that story, we all have a story. It doesn't matter if we're a fresh college graduate, if we've only ever been a bartender, if we're an executive. So I actually believe also Emily and Lissa were talking, I know this is Ready, Set, Exec. These are not only executive tips and tools that we're sharing with you here. You don't have to be an executive level to have presence, to have confidence, to think about how you show up in an interview. If you show up dud face, no smiling, no energy, I tell you again, you are not going to pass. You have, whether it's a mantra you tell yourself before, Emily talked a little bit about that, knowing that this is your one shot. If it's taking 6 to 9 to 12 months to find a role in this wonky market, those frogs that you're kissing, you better be prepared. You better have it all pieced together in a way that is really interesting for the person on the other side. So the third thing is negotiation, and it's actually how I started building my company. And probably, first of all, it's a space that I am really good at and I have a lot of fun at. So I answered those 3 questions for myself. But I struggled with negotiation in my early days. I didn't know, first of all, I could. So in my early days, I remember, I've told this story before, but I remember getting relocated from Arizona to New York. And the company that hired me was a massive company. And they were paying for all my moving costs. And I remember like, wow, that's great. They're going to close my, closing costs on my condo, move me, pack me. Oh, that's awesome. And then a check arrived in the mail. This was a long time ago. So we had actual checks. Pay stubs used to come to our house in the mail. It was for $42,000. And I remember I was in my early 20s. I called my dad and I was like, Dad, this is wrong, right? He's like, that's not right. Like, money doesn't grow on trees, Kale. You better not cash it. He's like, there must be an extra zero. And I'm like, you're right. I'm going to just like hold it and not cash it. So I had this mindset and mentality a little bit scarce and a little bit like, how could a company possibly give me $42,000 for incidentals? Company ended up going bankrupt years later, which is ironic. But I had this relationship to it of not knowing I could, maybe even being a little bit afraid of asking for fear that they might think I'm greedy. They might think that I want the money more than I want the job. And so there's a lot of reasons why people don't negotiate. And it was an area that, from a mission perspective, I want to do my part to close the gender and racial pay gap. And I have this skill. I've sat on the other side of the table. I am going to bring it to the world and help people have confidence to be able to jump into that interview, to tell their story, and to be able to ask for what they're worth. The person on the other end, by the way, is expecting you to negotiate. Every single time they are expecting. So when you didn't, it was always really a surprise to me. And 87% of the time, according to a study, I think it was Fidelity that did the study, 87% of the time, the answer is yes. Even if it's not for the full amount that you've asked for, the answer is yes, almost 90% of the time. And the fact is, we are not asking. 40% of the time, people ask or negotiate. And that's men and women. Women alone, it's around 30%. And for people of color, it's in the 20s. So this is like this opportunity for you to walk through the door, because the person on the other end is expecting it, it's huge. And the amount of money we're leaving on the table by not negotiating is about $1 million to $1.5 million per person over your career. I know I was able to make up that gap later in life when I figured out that, not to call my dad for advice when $42,000 check arrived. Just kidding. Dad is amazing. I learned by watching people do it really well, and I took notes, and then I was able to double my package a few times then later in my career. So I think I certainly was able to close that gap. But when my 20 something clients show up, I'm like, yes, because we are now really impacting the pay gap by catching people much earlier in the process. And everything that I always recommend when it comes to negotiation is everything should be set up as a win-win. They've made you the offer. And I'll tell you, from the person on the other side of that table, I have a leader breathing down my neck saying, you better close Emily. Emily is our choice. No one comes close to Emily, KL. You better close that deal. I have negotiation room. And believe me when I tell you, when that person comes back and it's over my budget and I go back to the leader, they're like, you close her, you give her whatever she wants. And the last thing I'm going to say is that there is so many things beyond the salary that people don't realize are negotiable. And that is, of course, the basics: salary, bonus, equity. Those are the three that will always be on the table, that are obvious, and the ones that most people talk about. What people don't talk about is healthcare benefits. They don't try to figure out if they have, depending on their stage of life, if they have benefits that are going to actually support them. Fertility benefits, depending on where you are. I've had people stay with my company because of the incredible fertility benefits that we had, because they could go to another company. It cost them $200,000 out of pocket. Well, you better ask those questions when you're getting an offer, or you could be getting a nice fat raise and you've left it all on the table because now your healthcare benefits have your costs have gone through the roof. I have never had a car payment. I've always had a car, insurance, and gas. I worked in automotive for 20 years, so there was a added benefit. But there are a lot of sales roles. There's a lot of roles where cars could be part of the negotiation. Executive level, always negotiating severance as part of your package, sign-on bonuses, equity upfront. What are you leaving on the table? How can they help you close that gap? There's so much to talk about in this space. And I know I said that was the last thing. I've got one more thing. When you are asked the question, what are your salary expectations? Don't answer it. Go back to the person who asked you and say, listen, I'd love to know what your comp philosophy is inside your organization. Talk to me about your structure. If it's a startup, they might be more equity heavy than base salary heavy. So if you give a base salary that's out of whack, they might move on to another candidate. Always try to get a bit of intel before you answer that question, and ask them I'd love to know what you've budgeted for the role. Every role has a budget. Don't look at the role posted of the 6 states that you have to post it. Most of those numbers are not accurate. Ask what has been budgeted for the role. What is the range? And never ever talk in numbers, and never ever tell them what you currently make. Do your market homework. At least get educated on what the market ranges are, and you can pull in where you are. You can talk to Lissa, who's a director of HR, and ask her what range would be appropriate. You can talk to friends. Don't go in not ready to answer that question, and just know what your baseline is and what you would be really excited about. And so the range that you give better be a number that you're excited about. Don't give a number on the low end that you're not going to be happy with, because if that's where you end up, then you're really disappointed.
So just to chime in on that, because I think, during COVID, it was the Wild West with offers. So we were negotiating offers 50K, 100K over asking for a lot of executive, which was great for our business and great for them. But now things have slowed down a bit. And the mentality that I've seen from a lot of execs I talk to is, when I ask them, okay, well, what kind of offers or job opportunity should they bring to you? They say, well, my range is usually, I'm making 250 now, but I'd go down as low as 190 right now because I really need a job. And um, so their mentality is, well, it's a hard market, so I should lower my
No,
expectations. That's what they're
no.
thinking. A lot of them are thinking that.
Yeah.
So how do you change that? Because at the same time, they do need a job, right? So it's like,
I understand, totally understand where that comes from, John, but it is a huge mistake. First of all, call Emily and get grounded on where your value and what you're really worth. You should never discount yourself because what you made at one company may have nothing to do with this organization. And there's always a market, and there's a market that pays. Never discount yourself before you walk in. And I also don't agree that telling yourself that the market is so hard is helpful. Okay, I'm an optimist, but being pessimistic and talking and putting words out that attach to you, if you talk about how hard everything is, well, guess what? It's going to be hard. Talk about what you can do and focus on your controllables. You can control two things in life. That's where the market search, job search, relationships, doesn't matter. You can control how you show up, how you treat others. That is it. So am I showing up for this interview prepared? Am I showing up having done my homework? Am I showing up with a great story? That is all I can control. Knowing my value, knowing my worth, having done my personal brand, my resume looks good, like all the things I can control, my energy that I bring. Whether you get the job or you get the silver medal or you don't get a call back or they ghost you, that's not within your control. So attaching to that is just the most unhelpful thing that you can possibly do. And undervaluing yourself as well. Look, I will say this. I have had situations where clients were going for a CMO role, is one example. And the role got flipped from a CMO to a VP partway through the process. Massive red flag. They ended up making her an offer that was not really gorgeous. But I got 3 kids in private school, KL. I'm the breadwinner. I'm taking this job consciously, knowing this is not going to be my forever job. Those situations happen, and I totally, totally get. But I just closed an assistant general counsel, getting promoted to a general counsel in a pharma industry with a $200,000 sign-on bonus, with a $300,000 upfront equity investment in her. So $500,000 that they invested in her at sign-on, plus a $100,000 base salary increase. These jobs are out there. And if you undervalue yourself before you even walk in, no, it's a confidence thing, John. It's really, really important. I'm not saying you should be shooting like ridiculous numbers out there. You need to get grounded on what the market is paying, but know your worth.
so just to follow up on that, and this is from the audience actually, they asked, in a job application, it asks you, what's your expectation for salary? So they are expecting a number, right?
Yeah.
What do you put if there's a range, let's say from 200 to 250? What do you put as the number then?
Yeah, I mean, look,
They may not want to even look at your resume because you're,
yeah,
expensive.
I don't believe that the ATS system is the way for you to find your next job, first of all.
Yeah.
If 80% of jobs are found via your network, you shouldn't have to answer those questions that often. I think it's bogus, and I think that HR leaders need to look at their system and why you ask that question. It's nonsense. If you've already put the budgeted range in the post, it's a stupid question. Sorry, but if HR leaders are watching, take it out. It's not necessary. If you have to answer it, look, you can't go wrong probably with the mid to high end of the range. If they ignore you because you put the mid to high end of the range, you're never going to know why your resume wasn't picked up. But again, it's not within your control. Do the best that you can to answer that question that feels right. If the range is 200 to 250 and you're currently at 250, you would never put anything below that, but you're not going to put 300, right? So I think you have to answer the question the best that you can. It's a silly question.
Totally makes sense. And sometimes you just have to fill out the form to auto complete the, there's like a mandatory fields and so on. These applications online are getting very tedious.
They are, but don't forget also you don't have 500 recruiters on the other end with the thousands of resumes that are coming in. So it's not an easy job to also try to go through all of them. You probably catch the first ones that come through, and if there's 3 hot ones, you grab those 3 first. So it's also a timing issue, but I can't tell you how many jobs I have created just by having an amazing conversation. I meet Emily and I'm like, Emily needs to be on our team. I don't care how we figure out how to have her on our team, but we're going to get her on our team and we're going to create a role for her. That still happens because there's companies that still need to hire. There are people who are still leaving. There are companies who are firing groups and groups of people thinking that they're going to use AI and now, oops, that was wrong. We got to rehire. So there is hiring is always going to be happening. And I think it's just, finding creative ways to stand out and showcase yourself is the opportunity in front of you.
Absolutely. Totally makes sense. And I guess a question that does come up from a lot of people when it comes to negotiation is, what is the strategy behind asking? Because you can't ask for the whole kitchen sink and everything else, but how do you prioritize asking for equity versus sign-on bonus? Like, when it has become too much of an ask as well, right? And I think a lot of people become timid with, well, I'll ask for the benefits I want, but I won't ask for the salary. They kind of negotiate against themselves in a way before.
Yeah. Everybody does that, unfortunately. We negotiate against ourselves when we don't use silence as a tool. So when you put your number on the table or you put your ask on the table, that we don't stop talking and then we talk ourselves out of it. It's like, well, I'd really like 250. And like, but I'd probably take 225, because I'm actually at 200. Like just stop talking. So we do talk around that. It's a tricky one because every single person has a different situation. So if you are interviewing with a company where it is a mind-blowing, first of all, equity is a crystal ball. So it's a needle in a haystack to find one where you are in it for the long game, that you're prepared to wait long enough for it to vest and for it to actually be something. So you better be sure if you're going all in on equity that it's something big, something really important, but you also have to pay your bills. So you have to look at it realistically from the perspective of where you are financially. You might not be able to go all in on equity because it just doesn't make sense for you. I'm the breadwinner. I have bills to pay. I cannot make less than this amount, and I cannot put all my eggs in the equity basket. So it's a very individual question. I might be just got a big inheritance, or I have plenty of money in the bank and I'm willing to go all in on that equity deal because I am sure that's going to be amazing. And if it's not, it's all right. After a year or two, I'm out. I'll figure it out. So it is very, very special. And I don't think there's ever a time where you could ask for too much in terms of saying, listen, like these are my priorities. Healthcare is important. I hold the healthcare for my family. So please walk me through your healthcare programs and costs because I really want to spend time on that. In my career, not once did anyone ever ask me to send them the breakdown of the benefits, healthcare benefits, during the offer. I sent it, but no one ever once asked me for it. That is alarming and really important. So you have to evaluate what your priorities are, and then those are the ones that you prioritize negotiating.
Yeah, it makes sense. We've seen a lot more questions about healthcare lately. That's been probably one of the bigger asks, seeing the plans or how much is the co-pays or can I be in network or out of network for hospitals and service.
Out-of-pocket costs, yeah.
A lot. Yeah, we placed someone with 5 kids and they were asking all about it. So it's definitely, it's still an issue for a lot of people, right? So
yeah, absolutely. So if that's a priority for them, they might be willing to take less here or less there so that they can make sure that they have the healthcare benefits. Yeah.
Well, we're almost there on time. So what I was going to do as a final pass for all of our speakers was to ask, if you were, and this is a hypothetical situation to ask for each of you, okay? If you had lost your job in January, now we are in August, right? And you want that hot job summer, what would be your 3 tips or actionable things you should start doing today to get that job for September? And let's
Learn
start
how to tell my story.
on this one.
Network like nobody's business. Know my worth.
Sorry,
My first is I'm a big believer in manifestation. I am not woo, it works. So you're writing that on some place that you look all the time. Secondly, you are networking, and that means everyone, 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 everyone. Just as an entrepreneur, always be, selling and creating. You're always creating potential opportunities. And then the third would be taking pristine care of yourself so that you can go the distance.
Yeah.
and Lisa?
I would say regulate your nervous system, figure out what works for you and what's going to keep you calm during this process because it'll be different for each person. Definitely networking has been said, but I would add start with the people that you know. A lot of times people go to strangers first, people they've never met, start sending DMs. You already have a network, start there. And then the last thing is to optimize your LinkedIn profile.
Nice. All right. Well, we hope everybody can get going with some of these tips we covered today, and we wish everyone a good job search. We'll be able to post this later this week, hopefully on YouTube for review if you miss any segment from us. And I'll also share some information on our speakers, as they do have a lot of information and insights they can support you with if you do want to have one-on-one support from them. So thanks everyone for coming today. Appreciate Emily, Lissa, Keri-Lynne for being on our panel today, and wish everyone a good rest of their summer.
Thank you for putting this together.
No worries. Thank you.